What famous person has done something incredibly heinous, but has often been overlooked? Marcus Alonso, left back for Chelsea FC, was drink driving and got his passenger killed. Should have gone to prison, paid €61,000 and is often brushed under the rug. Most Americans probably won't know the name Jimmy Savile, but what he got away with for decades is absolutely awful. Countless sexual assaults against people, mostly children, all the way up to the elderly. Worse than that, his behavior was covered up by elements within the BBC as he was employed by them. He's dead now, but he got away with it his whole life, likely won thousands of victims. Notre Dame football coach Brian Kelly insisted on having student videographers record practices. Back in October of 2010, the region was experiencing a very bad windstorm, 50+ mph gusts, and Kelly hated to move practice inside. So once rain lightning was over, he moved it back outside. Despite the high winds, the videographers had to climb into scissor lifts and ascend up to 40 feet high in this weather. As you can guess, the wind eventually blew over one of the lifts, sending it crashing down to a nearby street and killing the videographer, 20-year-old Declan Sullivan. Just before the accident, Sullivan tweeted out some heartbreaking messages expressing his fear over the situation. The team's practice continued for 25 minutes after the scissor lift fell over. Despite the university being determined to be at fault for Sullivan's death, Kelly was never really held to account for his reckless decision to hold practice outside in horrendous weather and to continue to have the videographers up on unstable lifts. It should have ended his coaching tenure at the school that year, but collegiate sports money and power doesn't abide by such silly notions of responsibility. 20-year-old Declan Sullivan. Dude, I know he was a legal adult, but remembering where I was, emotionally and financially, at 20 years old, I'm particularly disgusted and assume this guy was under a lot of pressure. I may just be projecting, but frick, this whole story strikes me as vile. Allison Mack of Smallville fame was a member of the NXIVM cult and was personally responsible for human trafficking, sexual assault, branding, and literally making other women sexual slaves of the guru. She's currently under house arrest awaiting sentencing. Klaus Kinski was a violent lunatic who also raped his own daughter. The number of professional athletes who have raped, abused people and animals, committed heinous crimes with impunity is too long to list. I was wondering when someone would mention Allison Mack. She is fricked up. Famed musician John Phillips of the 60s folk rock group Mamas and Papas supposedly had a 10-year incestuous relationship with his actress daughter, Mackenzie Phillips. He also shot her up for the first time when she was like 12 and gave her multiple other drugs. When he was 51, pedophile actor Doug Hutchinson lost The Green Mile, married 16-year-old Courtney Stodden, whose piece of crap parents signed off on it. I feel bad for her. She's reappeared lately looking very healthy and explaining how badly she was groomed by him and how he took advantage of her. I think she just wanted to get out of Ocean Shores so badly and did whatever she thought she needed to do. Alice Walton, heiress of the Walmart fortune, isn't a good driver. Walton has been involved in multiple automobile accidents, one of them fatal. She lost control of a rented Jeep during a 1983 Thanksgiving family reunion near Acapulco and plunged into a ravine, shattering her leg. She was airlifted out of Mexico and underwent more than 24 surgeries. She suffers lingering pain from her injuries. In April 1989, she struck and killed 50-year-old Aletta Hardin, who had stepped onto a road in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Witnesses stated that Walton was speeding at the time, but no charges were filed. In 1998, she hit a gas meter while driving under the influence of alcohol. She paid a $925 fine. During the filming of the Twilight Zone movie, John Landis demanded a scene be shot in the middle of the night and beyond the amount of time that child actors are allowed to work, paid off their parents in cash from his own pocket. During the scene there were big pyro effects and a helicopter pilot hovering dangerously low. The pilot was trying to keep safe, but Landis kept telling him to get lower. Pyroblast damaged the tail rotor of the helicopter, which lost control and crashed, decapitating an actor and one of the children. The second child was crushed to death. Landis said the worst thing about the whole incident is that it affected his career. John Stamos admitted in G magazine to tricking a girl into having sex with his friend. He bragged that he started making out with this girl in a dark room, got up to brush his teeth and then let his friend go in and have sex with her. No one mentions it. Some dirtbags just get a pass, I guess. What the frick? Cole Malone, ex-NBA player, impregnated a 13-year-old girl while he was 20 in college. Did not have a relationship with the kid. Chris Benoit is more known for the circumstances of his death. Long story short, he's a wrestler, received too much chair shots to the head in his career, developed the brain of a 80-plus-year-old man at barely 40, had a breakdown and killed his wife, his son and then himself. Once they learned this, WWE tried to basically bury him and act like he never existed despite the fact that he was an enormous main eventer back then. Everyone is aware of this and it's often debated whether Benoit is a victim or not. But then you have Jimmy Snuka over there who killed his girlfriend in cold blood for seemingly no reasons and this mother is in the Hall of Fame and no one seems to care. I remember the episode they had in memorial for him. It was very heartbreaking. Now if you try to look him up everything has been removed. Honestly, I think it should have been talked about more because pro athletes go through a lot of head trauma. This should have been used as a learning lesson instead of hidden away. I'd like to take a moment to point out that all Pee Wee Herman did was masturbate in a pee theater. So, frick your smug righteousness. Sarasota, Florida. Ian Watkins, lead singer of Lost Prophets, currently serving lots and lots of time at Her Majesty's pleasure for assorted child sex offenses including trying to arrange something so despicable that I can't type the words. I used to love their music. Now I just feel sick when I think about it. Scrolled specifically for this one. He was going to rape a 1-year-old baby girl, like the baby's mother was all for it. Also distributed child pee. Ted Kennedy, brother to John F. Kennedy, drove his car off a bridge and left a woman in it to die. Went home, got some sleep and called police in the morning. No charges. Served in the US Senate until he died. Learning about Chappaquiddick is like wow, what the frick. I guess those Kennedys must have paid everyone off pretty well to forget about the murderer among them rotting in a jail cell somewhere. And then you find out good old Ted got to live out the rest of his life as a US senator and you lose what little hope you had left in the world. Wesley Snipes beat Halle Berry so badly it made her deaf in one ear. Whoa, did not know that. Jared Leto has a fringe group of young women follow him around and refer to him as a leader. His hair is long and flowing, wears some long white smocks. Something is brewing with that. I don't know how overlooked this is, but Kevin Spacey and the fact that 4 witnesses have died who were supposed to testify against him in his sexual assault case. That's just shady. No wonder he was so good in House of Cards. Steven Tyler got custody of his 14-year-old girlfriend so she could go on tour with Aerosmith and be together. Her parents consented. Wow, that's some real nasty crap. Jimmy Savile. He got away with raping kids his whole life and everything only came out once he died. Got an OB as well whilst he was alive, all whilst abusing kids. The sad part is that the reputation was already there. People in the back offices of the BBC knew. The people who worked with him knew. Even some of the hospital and charity staff knew. But individually nobody felt like they could come forward because they wouldn't be believed and the charities might be shut down. Marcos Alonso from Chelsea killed a 19-year-old while drunk driving and got off with a €61,000 fine. His salary per week is €110,000. Don't drink and drive. Also don't get into a car when you know the driver is drunk. In the early 90s, Tom and Roseanne Barr Arnold financed a large-scale M operation in southeast Iowa that ran through Tom's brother-in-law's horse breeding operation. This one doesn't get a lot of publicity, but to the locals, it's just a known fact. This comment just gets weirder and weirder with each sentence. Honestly though, I'd watch the frick out of this documentary. Anision. For grooming kids and abusing multiple people of all ages. He's recently been verified by Twitch. I'm so disgusted and furious. No one should ever forget what he did. His spouse also participated in grooming children after he was groomed by Anision. Just everyone that's with the Church of Scientology, an organization known for their crappy and psychotic practices. From Tom Cruise to John Travolta, they're all ignored because they're A-list actors even though they're involved in a goddamn cult. Where's Shelley, David? Yee, Elizabeth Moss is a major one, as well. So many people seem shocked to find out that she's a Scientologist. Here in Czechia we have folk singer who was acting during communist regime that he was against it. In reality he was collaborating with secret police and reporting dissidents. Yet to this day most of people would call you an envious one if you bring it up again while he is enjoying popularity in Czechia and Poland, receiving a prize by Putin, and creating racist songs against refugees. I hate you, Jeremiah Nahavika. I really don't understand how Andy Dong hasn't been cancelled Metaward. He has been waving his dong where it doesn't belong and touching people inappropriately for 30 years. This isn't even a secret. I guess people just don't think about Andy Dong. Melissa Benoist's first husband almost blinded her, so she's been doing the Supergirl TV show for a while now, but a few years back news came out that she had hurt her eye. She said she had tripped or something, had hurt herself at home. Nope. Her first husband threw his phone at her in a fit of rage, hit her in the eye, and she almost lost her sight. Glad she left that psycho. Yeah, that whole story is so fricked up, and she even told that story on Fallon and she had to frame herself as a klutz and laugh along. They took the interview off of YouTube, but when the story came out, her fans connected the dots on it. Her eye is permanently damaged from that. I'm so glad she got away from him. You always hear about Pancho Villa, but hardly ever about his right-hand man, Rodolfo Fierro. Fierro loved to kill. He would kill at the first chance and would do so in a casual manner. One time he and another one of his henchmen were arguing as to which direction a man falls when he is shot and killed. They argued, Fierro that the man would fall faster first, the henchman that he would fall backward, until all of a sudden Fierro took out his gun and fatally shot a passerby in broad daylight. The man fell faster first and Fierro won that argument. I can't help but think of Guy Fieri killing people after this. Al thought that is really terrible. How the frick do I keep seeing positive Reddit posts of Tom Cruise? Dude is essentially the messiah of a global, multi-billion dollar cult and his literal fricking slaves. Collateral was alright though, I guess. It's my estimation that every man ever got a statue made of him was one kind of a son of a bee or another. Malcolm Reynolds. What about the US diplomat and his wife, who killed a young driver in the UK by driving on the wrong side of the road and then fled under diplomatic immunity? She's hiding behind the US justice system and they're allowing her to remain and not be extradited. What a pair of cowardly shoots. You don't understand just how pissed off this makes me. It's on BBC News quite a bit and hearing about it is just heartbreaking. The fact that an American is allowed to come over here, drive on the wrong side of the road, kill someone and claim diplomatic immunity despite not being a diplomat just married to one, makes my blood boil. If a person who runs illegal gambling rings can be trusted and if a pseudonym was loose enough, Toby Maguire's apparently the sort of person who gets known gambling addicts into debt slavery because he feels like it. Casting Michael Cera in that role was just sheer fair kiss. Mark Wahlberg was one of the few people in history to violate a civil rights injunction. A civil rights injunction is basically a court order telling someone to stop committing hate crimes. Mark Wahlberg was originally busted as a 15-year-old for attacking 4th graders for being black. 2 years later he robbed and beat a Vietnamese man for being Asian, then beat another man for also being Asian. One of his victims was permanently injured. Then he became Marky Mark. Inaccurate to say one of the few people in history, but yeah, it's bad. Tekashi 69. He's a proven pedophile rapist and yet so many people just don't care. I could never listen to or support someone who hurt anyone, especially children, like that. It's disgusting. People were more annoyed by him being a snitch than being a pedo. Blake Shelton ran over an endangered turtle with his car on purpose, then basically bragged about it on Twitter. There was quite a bit of backlash and his PR people successfully swept it under the rug. First, it was an accident, but nobody bought that, so then it never happened at all. Jeffree Star. The amount of followers he still has after everything he's done is amazing. Yes, it's mind-blowing how this continues to go ignored. Right now as we speak, he's being hit with another allegation, not to mention all the stuff about Davey. Awful. How has nobody said Sean Penn? He hit Madonna over the head with a baseball bat when they were together, broke into their home when they were on the outs, tied her to a chair with cable, cut off her hair and beat her, also left her there for like 9 hours apparently and came back to continue. Then he forced her to perform sex acts on him. She managed to get away at some point and get to the cops, but she didn't end up pressing charges. President Grover Cleveland raped a woman, impregnated her, stole her child and gave it to friends, and Thib forced the state to institutionalize her. My Grover Cleveland poster is going straight into the trash. Roman Polanski drugged and raped a child, then fled America rather than serve his sentence. Yet Hollywood folks still work with this child rapist and fugitive from justice. France won't extradite him, and people actually say he should be forgiven and allowed back from exile. No, he should be castrated with a rusty knife and left without any medical treatment. Jenny McCarthy flaming the fire of the anti-vaccine movement in 2007. I had never heard of the term or movement, and the first time I did, her name was attached. And now all these Karens feel emboldened to endanger the lives of their children and the people around them. Also Oprah for giving her and similar quacks a platform. John Travolta refused to give his son his prescribed epilepsy meds because Scientology doesn't believe in mental illnesses, and as a result the son died. Remember that time Chris Brown beat Rihanna nearly to death, racked up multiple gun charges for randomly firing during his small shows, and yet he hasn't been arrested nor taken out of the spotlight since then. If anything, he's just gotten more popular and more praise than anything. Freaking Bill O'Reilly called for the execution of an abortion doctor on his program, going so far as to give his home address and the address of the church the dude attended. A lone wolf showed up at his church and executed him. Zero consequences for Fox or O'Reilly. Doxxing before doxxing was mainstream. I haven't seen this yet, but Paul Walker of the Fast and Furious franchise really had a thing for teenage girls. He was 40 years old when he died, but his live-in girlfriend was only 16 when they started dating. He was 33 at the time. His girlfriend prior to that was also 16 when they started dating. He was 28. Never understood how he got away with it then, or how his legacy continues unblemished. Anne Perry Juliette Hume was convicted for murdering her friend's mother, but because of her privileged background, she got off after 5 years and now lives a normal life, enjoying success as an author. Michael Fassbender apparently used to beat the crap out of his ex-girlfriend. She said he was a raging alcoholic and beat her at least on one occasion in public. There was one instance where an ex had talked to her at a restaurant while she was with Fassbender, and on the drive home he was shouting at her, etc. She got out of the car to go and take the keys out of the ignition, and he basically stepped on the gas and dragged her along the street. It caused internal bleeding, a busted ovarian cyst and some other injuries. On another occasion, he threw her over a chair after an argument and broke her nose. She asked to be compensated for her medical bills from the injuries caused by the abuse. And that's it. She didn't want the case to be prolonged. He never spoke about it. I think he settled it in private. As a result, it seems most people have never heard about it. Another weird thing I heard that may not be true is that because it happened before he was properly famous, Weinstein and company helped keep it quiet when the story resurfaced around the time Inglourious Basterds was coming out. But yeah, it's a horrendous story and I hope she's doing okay. Chris Brown, total price of crap, and that other pedo musician whose name escapes me right now, married Aaliyah when she was 16 or something. R. Kelly, that's him. Total C. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.